Well, a lot of hurdles that they would need to find a way to scale if they want to make their way back into it, even though they do still find themselves up 1 to Sentinels. We will have to match medic the match overall, so we'll send things to a brief pause and hopefully be back to rejoin our squads in map number 1 on Haven without too much of a delay.
Show me what you got. Down, up, back, back, up, God, down, up, back, back, God, down, up, back, back, up, God, down, up, back, back, God, down, up, back, back, up, God, down, up, back, back, God, down, up, back, back, up, God. Ain't no reason to back down, so step it up. God, down, up, back, back, up, God, down, up, back, back, God, down, up, back, back, up, God, down, up, back, back, God, down, up, back, back, up, God, down, up, back, back, God, down, up, back, back, up, God.
Welcome back there, friends. My whole shift with me, Avril. We are still in the state of repair to get the game back to where it was. So it gives us at least a little bit of time to zoom out away from our match specifically and kind of talk maybe in more generalities what this tournament's looking like, because I think there are some surprises we could credit. NRG come out looking pretty solid versus Built by Gamers, and Vox able to take down Sentinels. But alongside and simultaneously happening along this match with T1 and Sentinels is actually what's happening with TSM and Built by Gamers. Now, you see the bracket as it stands out. TSM were able to grab the first map victory over Built by Gamers, and it was in pretty convincing fashion. 13-5 the tally on Ascent there, Avril.
Only 2 rounds found by BBG on the defense as well, 2 defuses. Otherwise, it's 10 with 8 in a row from TSM. TSM angry right now because, dropping down to Immortals. They don't feel good about that one. Wardell is trying his best to hold on to that game. Looks like a pretty hot performance from Subrosa so far, 20 and 12 on the Sky. And honestly, TSM on a bit of a comeback tear versus BBG, who are going to need to do a lot more in this Haven. I believe the Haven map is just starting out for TSM versus BBG as well on No Street Gamers 2. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And once I keep an eye on that one, we'll just refresh the results every now and then, just have a look and see how that one's going, because that's another elimination game. Remember, the teams that lose today, the first 4 teams eliminated, they're gone. Their hopes for Challengers Finals are done for. They don't get to make it through. You have to be top 4 from this event to go to the Challengers Finals. And then in the Challengers Finals, top 2 from the 8 teams that are there, including the 4 that have already qualified into Challengers Finals from our Challengers 1 event in Stage 2. 2 teams from North America go to Reykjavik to represent North America in Masters 2. So you have to really be a cut above.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe we could spend some time, because obviously you guys can check out that match going on live right now by heading over towards the Nerd Street Gamer second stream. But looking for maybe tomorrow a little bit, Cloud9, Blue, and Andbox. A lot of people very hot on C9 Blue. There was a lot of discussion, would T1's kind of recent resurgence be enough to get them on maybe an extended run through this bracket? Cloud9 Blue, on the other hand, obviously a couple of very recent roster swap-ups, bringing in a couple of CSGO players, looking very, very solid on their initial match. And then you got Andbox, who kind of find themselves in a very similar position when it comes to recent roster changes that have been forced into their hand, and they've been able to take them and run with them. So where's your kind of headspace at when it comes to maybe some expectations for C9 Blue and Andbox tomorrow?
That's an insane matchup, because you just have C9 Blue looking really great versus T1, and T1 look okay in this match so far. Andbox, who upset Sentinels, putting them into the lower bracket, and Andbox, honestly, that's one of the best performances from Andbox. Is Ye and Marta going really huge there.
Massive.
Split's another map you have to look at. Split's probably the map to me that really stood out. It's Ye going 29 and 14. Like, what an insane performance. Marta went 28 and 19 on the Haven as well. So they beat Sentinels on 2 of Sentinels' best maps. And every single time you have a team that beats Sentinels, you got to think, like, was it a one-off? Is this team for real? And you kind of have that discussion for BBG, where BBG did get that upset, but then since then they've been kind of here or there. They've been an okay team. They've lost to NRG and Andbox. That same thing will be, the same question will be posed to them. Can they now take that to beat Cloud9, who we describe as being on their revenge tour, because Cloud9 have been this team that has struggled to make it into any event for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now that they're here, they're pretty much 1 win away from making top 4. So in this upper semi-final between Cloud9 versus Andbox, then Immortals, NRG, the winner of those going to the upper finals, I think at that stage you're guaranteed top 4, because you can't drop down to a lower bracket match that will get you eliminated. So even if you lose from the upper bracket, you're still in the top 4. You still go to Challengers Finals, and that's the cutoff point, really. And for teams like T1, Sentinels, TSM, and BBG, you win your first lower bracket game, but then you have to win your second one, because if you win here and then you lose your second lower bracket game, you're still eliminated. You still don't make it into Challengers Finals. So that's what makes this lower bracket run that much more difficult. And for teams like Cloud9 and Box, congrats to one of those teams, but they'll be guaranteed into Challengers Finals.
Yeah, and that's been the key, I think, for a lot of these Challengers main events. Win 2 and you're in. Lose 2, you're out. Done. Nothing to find there. So, yeah, it's interesting, because out of the 4 teams that we have here in the upper semifinals, I think they're largely, if you were just to kind of zoom out and look at the North American region generally, surprising to see that those are the teams that are fighting for one of those top 4 spots with this upper semifinals that's imminently going to be happening tomorrow. And then on the other side of things, you've got teams like Sentinels, T1, and TSM, all at which one point in time were champions over the North American region. A little bit longer ago for a team like T1 than Sentinels or TSM, but still the fact of the matter remains. And, I think just kind of maybe focusing back in a little bit at this T1 and Sentinels matchup, the one thing that I have to kind of keep harping on is the fact that since Sentinels won Masters #1, hey, they haven't really played anyone at that same level again in stage number 2. I mean, the loss to Built by Gamers cut them short, and their loss to Anbox just recently, as of today, cuts them short of being able to play up against one of those formidable top, 6 teams or so that we kind of list in our power rankings when it comes to North America. So I don't know. Maybe it's just, is there anything to be said about the fact that, Sentinels picking up 10s last second for Masters number 1 was maybe a bit of a honeymoon period? Or is there something still in the tank that shows that this Sentinels team can be definitively the best team in North America?
Well, apparently they're just lowering 10's buyout, really. That's the strategy, I'm sure, for Sentinels.
It's all mind games. All right, got you. All right.
No, that is an interesting thing to talk about, though, because, yeah, you're right. Like, Sentinels since Masters hasn't quite had that game. But part of that reason is because they lost to, the BBGs and the Ambox. If they beat BBG, they would have been, through. They would have been looking at them playing the, Challenges 1. And then they'd be going up against, the 100 Thieves and stuff. And if you even look back at that event, the big winner there really is version 1, because version 1 is the type of team that I don't know if you'd expect this team to move on in, but version 1 were always that team that were teetering on the outside of, top teams in North America for a very long time. And now they made top 4. They get into Challenges main event where the top 8 in North America play it out. But that means when you have new teams making like that, other teams got to miss out. And we've already had, by the way, 3 teams from Masters that have missed out as far as the open qualifiers go. Luminosity's gone, FaZe Clan's gone, Gen G's gone, which means number 2 and number 3 and number 5, I believe, was what Luminosity got from Masters. Those 6 teams have all been eliminated. And these are also teams, by the way, that failed to get through in Challenges 1. I mean, I remember Challenges 1 when we were a part of that event as well. It's like you see all of these upsets. You see all of these teams that failed to make it through even into the Challenges 1 main event through open qualifiers. And I don't know if that says more about the teams losing or more about the teams that making it through in terms of how close the upper end of the competition is, and maybe new teams now making it through after, shoving the old guard out of the way.
And that's not a storyline that is specifically focused and tailored just to North America. We've seen the same things kind of happen globally, especially in Europe as well. So we're in a new era, it always feels like, when it comes down to stage versus stage versus stage. There's always somebody new that crops their head into the mix and says, hey, we can compete for sure. I think some of the arguments could have been for teams like Luminosity in the past, XSET more recently, and now version 1 in that conversation. Well, even Renegades, even technically before that, they even surprised us the first time they got into First Strike. So a lot of interesting storylines brewing, and well, the one that's at the hands right now is a major organizational squad will be eliminated in some form after the conclusion of this series, but we are still trying to get the match back to where it was, and well, it's taking a little bit longer than anticipated. So stick with us. We'll promise. We'll try to get everything figured out. You don't have to listen to us for too much longer when it comes to podcasting, but we'll hopefully be back in the game without too much more delay when we come back after this break. back, everybody. You're either about to love us or hate us, because we're back on screen, which means one of two things. The game is ready to go. We can get back into gameplay, or you're about to hear Avril and I talk more about meta nonsense here, and you're about to just go completely cringeworthy. But we are getting where we are just about ready. So as we get back in, we're looking at what, 10-9, I think the current tally at the moment. Sentinels do still find themselves down, but surging through this attacking side.
Yeah, so back in now finally. So we reset where we're meant to be. We get the pause. I don't actually know who asked for the pause. At this point, we're going to have the, well, we've had more than a pause.
Had a
We've
dinner
actually had
break.
several minutes now worth of pause, to be honest with you. So got your time's worth for whichever team requested it. Reset game back to where it's meant to be. 10-9, like we're talking about as well. And this comes out of Sentinels having so far 5 rounds in this half. So it's 5-2 currently in this particular half. But otherwise, we started with a 4-8 for Sentinels, and 8 rounds.
Bounce back after the break and find themselves